This is the quite stunning LG G5 OLED with its new RGB tandem screen. It has amazing blacks, fantastic colours and a great design. However, this is the LG C5 OLED. Now this is the W OLED screen. It also has fantastic blacks and great colours and a great design. So there is a big difference in price between them. But which one is right for you, and what are the actual differences when you put these head to head? Let's find out. By the way, if you haven't already checked out my video about the LG 100-inch TV, comparing it against a 55 and a 75-inch TV, then be sure to check that out. The link will be in the description. Okay, for the duration of this video, the LG G5 will be on top and the LG C5 will be on the bottom. But just to make things a little bit fairer, because the LG C5 has been brought slightly forward because it's in front of the stand, whereas the LG G5 is a bigger TV, but it's on the wall so it appears smaller, I'm just going to even these up for the purpose of the video. But other than that, I'm not changing anything at all on their pictures. Okay, there you go, that's a little bit better. So the G5 on top and the C5 on the bottom. Now, both of these have been set to the ISF bright setting, so they're exactly the same. Nothing is different in the setup of these two TVs. Now, one of the first things that you're going to notice is that you're going to be looking at this and think, hang on a minute, they look very, very similar. And the one thing that I would say is that in some scenes, they do look quite similar. And I was actually amazed at how close the C5 actually got to the G5. But then in other scenes, they're very, very different. So I'm going to come on to my color test that I do right away, right at the very start, so that you can see the difference in the brightness straight away. Now you can see the difference. Again, you'll notice that some colors are a bigger difference than others. For instance, this green, there's not too much difference between the two. And the blues, again, are a little bit more subdued. But the yellows, you can see, are a lot brighter. So when it's needing to go the brightest point for the brightest colors, that's when the G5 is coming in. Now, if we go on to my focus test, the focus isn't the issue here. There's no issue at all, but you can again see the brightness difference. It's immense. Now, over the years, I've been less interested in the numbers and more interested in how it actually looks. But for those of you that are interested, the peak brightness on the G5 was more than double on a 10% window. It measured 2401 compared to 1061 on the C5. And on a full screen, again, it was almost double. It was 399 compared to 209. But in day-to-day real-world tests, the differences are far less than double, as you can see from the examples. How about SDR? Well, again, SDR peak brightness, the G5 had a score of 999 compared to 619 on the C5, and then on a full screen window, it was 469 compared to 305. So probably about 50% better in terms of the scores. But again, in terms of how you look at the TV, I don't think that you would look at it and think one is 50% better or 100% better than the other. Now, I think for 95% of people, it will come down to two things, and that will be the design of the TV and also the size of the screen that they want. Now, what I mean by that, if design is your priority and you really want to have that incredible flush mount of the Gallery series that the Gallery series offers, then you have to go for the G series TV. The way that it sits just so close to the wall is something which you just do not see on the majority of any other TVs that I've seen. And so therefore, if you're wanting to wall mount the G series, well then that is definitely the way to go. So if you're thinking of putting the G series and getting the stand version, I would just go for the C5. Because I really do feel that a lot of the benefit of that G series TV is in its design. And if you're not going to be wall mounting it, well then you may as well have the C5. Because when you look at them like this, just face on, which they would look the same if they were on a stand, well then you're going to get this type of view. And then you've got to look at the differences between the TVs. And yes, there are some TV differences without a doubt in terms of the picture quality, but for the majority of people, I think they're going to be so marginal and so occasional in terms of HDR content and certain scenes that the majority of people will be able to sacrifice that and maybe be able to upgrade the size of the TV by 1 or 2 steps for the similar price. So if you are on a budget and you're wanting the difference in screen sizes, then I think you need to look at scenes like this. Look at the rocks on the G5 above compared to the C5, and you can see that the highlights, the colours and everything about it is better on the G5. But if that G5 wasn't there, would you be looking at the C5 and saying that's a terrible image? You wouldn't. You would be saying it's a fantastic image. And 99% of the people that walked into your front room would think that you've got the most incredible TV. And it's only on some very occasional scenes that the differences are stark. The majority, the differences will be there, but they're subtle. And it's whether you think that you ought to be spending that extra money for those subtle differences. Don't get me wrong, the purists out there will always want to go for the better option. And yes, the better option will be the G5. But it's just whether you feel what you're seeing in this video equates to the difference in either a couple of screen sizes or a big saving in money. Another way to look at it would be that if most of what you watch is SDR content, which is normal cable TV and normal TV programs, then you're probably not going to be noticing as big differences, because the two, like for instance this is SDR content that you're looking at now. You may see some differences, but it's not going to be huge. However, if you're watching HDR content most of the time, well then you'll probably enjoy those differences more often, and then it's just going to be down to whether you think it's worth spending the extra or having a smaller screen if you've got a limited budget to have that extra brightness, because the G5 is far more capable of delivering higher brightness. When it comes to things like the web OS and also the gaming capabilities, well, these again are almost identical TVs, and so therefore there isn't really any difference between the two. So hopefully I've cleared things up a little bit for you, and you can really just analyze what your thought pattern is to what you prefer. Do you think that you'll be wanting the extra brightness that it delivers in HDR content? If the majority of what you do is watch standard TV, well then you might save yourself some money or be able to get a larger screen, which will end up giving you, I believe, far bigger impact. Now obviously at the time of making this video, which is August 2025, the TVs have already started to come down in price, which is a great thing. And I'll leave a link in the description so that you can check out in your location what the TVs are, and hopefully then you can see whether it's worth buying the better TV, which is the G5, or saving money and going for the C5, but maybe you'll go for a slightly larger version. Now, I'd love to know if you're on the same wavelength as me and feel that maybe it's worth spending the extra in terms of real estate screen size rather than on the better TV. Or is there another TV which is floating your boat at the moment that we haven't even mentioned? So would you go for the LG G5, or would you go for a larger LG C5, or maybe you'll go for something completely different? Let us know in the comment section. That's it for this video, my friends. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you on the next.